back to the program. My guests are with me right now. Let me start by with the guest that is blessed to be among women. OLUFEMI Boyede is the President, Chief Executive Officer of KOINONIA Global Services. Welcome to you, sir, and blessed are you among women.
Thanks so much.
So you are in good hands.
Oh yeah, I believe I'm in safe hands. Good morning, viewers.
ANNABEL KAMUCHE is the Group Managing Director of NICERT Group, is that?
Yes.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Now we will be looking at the ministry, in fact, not even ministry, we are looking at industry, trade and investment sector in the country. Mr. Boyede, let me begin with you. How crucial is this ministry and its departments, its agencies under it? Because it seems that whenever there is like an appointment, you know, when the president names his cabinet, we don't get to I don't see that verve around, you know, around industry, trade, and investment. It's always around who is the oil minister, who is the finance minister, who is agriculture minister. I'm not saying that those ministers are, but you understand what I mean. So how crucial is this ministry?
I know all too well, Nancy. And like you, I think I weep for this beloved country because let's look at Nigeria as a vehicle. Every other structure out there is the body. The engine that should move this vehicle is actually the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. And therefore, for me, even perhaps more than the Ministry of Finance and other bodies on ground, this ministry deserves the core attention and therefore needs to be saddled with the whatever it is that is the focus of an administration, the responsibility for rejuvenation, development and sustainability of the national economy and its base actually rests with the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
Aren't you being a bit biased?
No, I'm not biased. I'm telling you based on what happens in other countries.
In other countries, I understand.
Because what's the economy without investment?
Without trade?
What's the economy without trade? What's the economy without industry?
Without industry.
Okay.
When we remove all this, then there is no.
Because even other ministries or other sectors will revolve around all of this.
Yeah.
Should revolve.
Yeah, should revolve. We have an oil industry. What are its policies and all of that? What are the investment drives around? Anyway, ANNABEL, come in here. What do you want to add to what Mr. Boyede has said? And if we also take a look at what the ministry has done in the past few years, Mr. Boyede, you have a very full grasp of this sector. Let me come back to you a bit before. No. I want to ask a question. How many years have we seen this industry? Has this ministry been on? Really, this I know Olusegun Aganga.
It's been there since the inception of Nigeria. It's been Ministry of Commerce.
That's actually what I was trying to an industry.
It's been Ministry of Industry on its own. It's been merged as Trade and Industry.
I think it was during Olusegun Aganga. It was now Industry, Trade and Investment. That's actually what I wanted to find out from you as an ancestor in that. That's how I came to you. All right, ANNABEL. We've talked about the crucial nature of this ministry. As someone that is also in that sector, playing within the space of non-oil and all of that, what would you say, how would you really rate the sector now, industry, trade and investment, being piloted by the ministry?
So in rating the sector, I think the sector has not gotten to its full potential. It's like, you know, when you are in a bus, but you are still carrying the load without knowing who you are. So it seems like as a country or even as a ministry, the ministry does not really know the potential that it has to drive the economy of Nigeria. So it's a ministry that encompasses other ministries. So for commodities, Ministry of Agriculture is connected to commodities, industry, even Ministry of Mines and Steel, all of them are all interwoven inside that ministry. So the ministry should be like the bullseye, where other ministries surround. But if you don't understand the potential that you have, you won't be able to express in terms of being, you won't be able to express yourself well.
Is it that they don't understand the potentials they have? Or perhaps there is no enabling environment also for them how do I put it?
So
like a chicken coming out from,
a
chicken coming out of an egg.
I think the driver of every agency,
yes,
or every parastatal or every ministry will determine how that ministry will be visible.
So in other words, in years past, we've not really seen
drivers who understand the potentials of that ministry to be able to
disagree.
As an ancestor, so come back again with history.
There have been drivers
who
Olusegun
Aganga.
Their word. Of course, you know. Yes, I agree. I'm an ancestor. I worked as a special advisor.
I interviewed Olusegun Aganga many times when he was minister.
3 previous ministers of that ministry. Ali Modibo Umar, before he went to FCT, I was his essay. Olusegun Aganga.
So what were the tangibles that you did at that time? As an ancestor and you worked with these people, what were the tangibles?
Nancy, you were just telling me about Industrial Revolution Plan.
Yes.
I chaired the ministerial committee that produced the raw material for the Nigeria Industrial Development Revolution Plan.
That was under Aganga.
Yeah, that was under Aganga. It's not about me.
Also.
Let's look at the fact that as far back as 2002, a certain engineer, Mustafa Bello, who was Minister of Commerce and Industry, actually made a presentation that threw the light on this ministry as the engine of Nigeria's economic growth. And because of that memorandum he presented, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry at that time was upgraded to a professional ministry. That was Federal Executive Council approval. If you upgrade a ministry to a professional ministry, it then means that the next step was for you to staff that ministry with professionals. Mm-hmm. Nobody has taken that necessary next step. So you go into the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment today, and you cannot find professional marketers. You can't find professional industrialists. You have a handful of people who understand what these things are supposed to be. But just like in the program of NEPC last week, where I was moderating a session, I gave the example of Canada, for example, that has Office of the Trade Commissioner in almost every country of the world. 198 offices of the Trade Commissioner.
But Canada is richer than us.
Industry, Trade and Investment.
Nigeria is richer. Canada is richer than us. Would you say we'll have in every country? We cannot afford that. Yes, but the ones we have, we should be strategic.
Exactly.
Perhaps continental.
No. Do we have? Let's answer that. We had 6, and by one fiat, I can't remember which government, abrogated Nigerian commercial desks abroad. So coming back to what Annabel has said, I'm waiting for a driver in the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
But there's a driver now, Doris Anite.
Yeah,
she's a banker.
She needs to now begin to drive it. She needs to look at what are the policies that have been made, even communiques like this, and look at them strategically. Which of them have been that when you bring into use today will be relevant for the ministry, relevant for the country, especially because we need to get out of this economic downturn that we are in. And it is the non-oil export that would help. So if she looks at it, she will not be able to say, okay, these are the things that we think we can do.
But is she making all the right noise, for the lack of a word to say, in terms of not really, is what we're hearing from her? Is it in the right direction? Of course, she traveled with President Tinubu, the trips, I think, in India and even the US, I think. And she's talking about, okay, her job is to promote foreign direct investment. Her job is to, make Nigeria a business-friendly environment and all of that. So with all of this, is she making all the right, are we seeing the right language from her?
Is that for me?
Yes.
Okay. I would say probably not, or probably not enough.
Not yet.
Where Nigeria
what would you have expected her to say?
Where Nigeria is today, we cannot continue to repeat, create the enabling environment, make what do you call it? I will intensify export promotion and those. We can't make politically correct statements. Sorry, her name again?
Doris Anite.
Doris
She's your minister, Mr. Boyede.
Nigeria's
Yes,
minister.
she's our minister.
Respectfully, yes,
Yes,
my
she's
minister.
she's
so
your minister.
what I would expect from her, for example, probably 3 or maximum 4, her personal agenda, her personal determination, and say, okay, you just raised an issue. What has that? Does that ministry understand what is it? Okay, my personal objective is, as at the time I leave this ministry, it will become the go-to ministry in Nigeria. I want to make it relevant as the center of Nigeria's economic growth. There are a lot of sub-strategies that will develop under that. My personal agenda would be to see that, because it has never existed before, Nigeria must have a national policy on non-oil export. I want to see that under my watch, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment will transform Nigeria into a non-oil export-driven economy.
Can that come under trade?
I want to see
that be under
that under my watch.
Can that be under a holistic trade policy?
Countries that went export, that became export-driven, they have an export strategy that is subsumed under a national trade policy. That's where I'm going.
No, come again, please. What did
Countries that have made their advancement, that are today controlling global trade, have a national export policy and a national export strategy subsumed under a holistic national trade policy.
So I was right when I asked that question, that it could actually be subsumed under it. Instead of because we should have a national. I don't even know where the extent of our trade policy now, really. But Annabel, you're also a player in the sector. What opportunities are there in that sector? And let me also bring the gender contribution to that. I see Mr. Boyede is like, these women want to take over now.
Oh, no.
But of course, even in that sector, women are even disadvantaged, as it were. Yeah. So what opportunities do you see there? And how can women also take advantage of that sector? With all intent and purposes, we also have a female minister of that industry. I don't think she's the first, actually. She's not the first ancestor.
No,
we had the Minister of State.
Akonde
as
Minister of Industry. We also had Aisha Abubakar as Minister of State for Industry.
Yes, it was the Minister of State. So we have another female minister in that sector. So what would you say about all of this?
Okay, so I think that, for instance, for MSMEs, the women play a lot of role in the MSME sector. And for a female minister, one of the things I think she should be looking at is, what sector do we have more women, more youth? So it will be the agricultural sector, it will be even in terms of processing of food, textile, and all of that. How do we now move them from point A to point B? How do we create the visibility that they require to be able to keep them in business? What kind of programs are they going to create as a ministry that would help to bring these women to the forefront and help them to be able to compete with their peers abroad or in the international market? So I'll give you an instance what is being done in Kenya. What Kenya has done is that Kenya identified products that they have comparative advantage. They picked avocado, for instance, and they started to look for countries that they want to create trade balance with. And they identified China. No, they've been exporting, of course, to Europe, to America, to Middle East, and all of that. But they identified China, they identified India, they identified Malaysia. In fact, last year, just for avocado alone, Kenya made $15.5 billion from just one commodity.
From avocado.
Just avocado alone. While Nigeria as a nation with all our non-oil exports made about $4.2 billion.
Just from one product.
So it is now being able, I agree with what Mr. Boyede has said, we have to create some sort of strategy around our export, around our trade. Find countries that we have trade relationships with and begin to create what kind of products do they need in those countries, and we begin to create trade balance. So we say, okay, China.
With certain commodities.
Certain commodities.
But with what you're saying right now, should we still have the mentality of exporting raw products?
No,
as in,
no. So
should it just be avocado? We harvest avocado. I'm just saying it could be any other. It could be palm oil where we have advantages. Look at products where we have advantages. Should we export raw? Because if you also export raw to China, I can tell you that China will process and it will come back as a finished product.
Yes.
And we'll buy it.
Yeah. So it won't be, for me, one of the things that I've always advocated for is to stop the export of raw materials and begin to process these raw materials into either semi-finished product or finished product. But we also have to understand the standards that those markets require.
Do we even have the requirements? Do we have the enabling environment?
So again, we have to now
into semi-finished or even finished the next. So
industry, the Ministry of Trade will now have to start looking at how do we. There has to be a synergy between the ministries. We have to now begin to think of cottage industries where everybody doesn't need to own a processing facility, but they should have common processing facilities that people can take their products to and process it in compliance with international standards for export. That way, it makes it easy. So if, for instance, I am processing shea, let me take shea because for shea butter, there are a lot of women in the shea industry. And we identify the shea belts. So we identify Niger State, Kebbi State, and then we have processing facilities for shea. So people can come in with their raw shea nuts and process into butter. And then we also have even places where people can do some sort of cosmetics. So they have shea butter, they can buy shea butter there, they buy lemongrass or whatever other ingredients that they need to be able to process their products into finished products that are ready for export.
Now, what's coming to my mind as you're saying that is the FTZs, the free trade zones, which are also supposed to be economic, special economic zones. I listened to the former NEBSA MD.
Professor Adeshuba.
Yes, Adeshuba. It said Nigeria had, I think, about 46 FTZs. Yes, out of about 240 in Africa. And when I did the simple mathematics, I was like, so Nigeria will control close to 20% of FTZs in Africa. But yet, not all of them are functional, about 20 of them. Now, how do you relate it to what Annabel has said in terms of getting specific areas where specific things are done to achieve that competitiveness? That's one. Then number two, Mr. Boyede, last Friday, tsunami happened under this ministry. It was even while I was on, the presidential advisor, as if, Nancy immediately at 11, I got the press release from Ajuri. I was like, okay, this is breaking all the agencies' new heads. How do you, is that also new wine, as it were, with what we're saying? And I guess you would have also looked at the lists. What do you think?
Okay, thanks.
With also the invigoration of young people in some agencies, like Smedan.
Smedan, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much, Nancy. First and foremost,
free trade zones.
Free trade zones have existed and have been part of and parcel of economic policy since 1986. Without even having a free zone of your own, there was a time when existing factories were conferred or licensed as export processing factories. They are good, but the implementation, what has been the impact on the national domestic market? Ask Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, and they will tell you that the final product of FTZs in Nigeria have actually negatively impacted the domestic capacity, in terms of production and in terms of market share. So that's an area that you actually need to do a thorough audit to understand what has been the benefits and what have been the impact. There needs to be, that's an area where I would advise, for example, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment to beam a very thorough and a technical professional searchlight on to understand whether it is in the number of free zones we have or in the absolute economic efficiency of that policy. That needs to be taken a careful look at. In terms of change, the only thing that is constant in life is change. So changing the headship of the 14 or 16 parastatals under the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment, for me, is not strange. For me, it didn't come as anything unexpected. And for me, even now, I believe that it is an indication of the intention of the Tinubu administration to adopt a new direction, to inject and infuse new blood into how the Nigerian economy is going to be changed. No. And then the part of the question that you asked, new wine or
old wine in new bottle.
Youth? Oh, fantastic. It is time for youth to take over. But I must warn that no country, as far as I know, the advanced countries, they never throw away expertise and experience. They probably retain such as consultants, as resources to be consulted. And
so experience, expertise, and youthfulness, they go together. Because I always say, you know, we shouldn't say, okay, people are also getting old, you throw away, you know, and all of that. Since we're even advocating for retirement ages in different sectors to even increase. My director is telling me we have 3 minutes. How come? No. You know, but it's almost 12 o'clock, and it seems we've not even scratched the surface yet. The president was in India and was in the US. Doris Sanete also was there. Wale Edu, just a few days ago in Morocco, said that Nigeria is now the first consideration for foreign investment. Is that good soundbite for you, Annabel?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know what necessitated that statement.
I guess they are speaking to also their colleagues abroad and all of that.
Yeah.
They may have information.
They might have information that we don't have, but based on what we have now, I don't think it's correct. But I think we are just being hopeful. But I hope again that we will be able to put things in place that can make that hope come to reality. Because if we are saying Nigeria is the best destination for foreign investment, the question will now be, do we have infrastructure? What's the ease of doing business? What's the security situation like? Is there transparency in terms of government? Is there, you know, continuation in terms of governance? What is the policy situation and all of that? Because you can come and make an investment today. So imagine someone who made investment in textile, and then tomorrow they've opened the borders. That investment is gone. So all of this you will have to put together, and then we will have to reevaluate, is it really correct to say that Nigeria is the best destination now for investment? But of course, we have to say things that would attract foreign direct investment to come into Nigeria.
The FEC, Federal Executive Council, mentioned yesterday at the briefing, Doris Anite, that President Tinubu has okayed subcommittees on industrialization and revitalization. And in fact, I think there will be 10 committees, and even the president is interested. I think he will also be chairing some of those subcommittees. Are we seeing some kind of renewed hope? Let me use the language of this administration around industry, trade, and investment.
It depends on intention, right? Intention will actually drive implementation. If the intention is actually to create new hope, fantastic. If the intention is to begin to knock out the list of political debts that needs to be settled, and therefore boost the number of people who are serving in one committee or the other, then we have a problem at hand. Because Like I said, like I have always advocated, the president holds responsibility for the economic revival of this country. The president is the visionary of renewed hope. And therefore, like Barack Obama, the president needs to take more than a passing interest on the creation of committees and advisory bodies and strategies to achieve that hope.
Okay.
And therefore, in that direction, I believe that whatever it is, especially the news that the president will personally chair a lot of this, that is good music in my ears.
As the chief marketer of the country. I'm getting a sense we'll have a part 2 of this. We'll agree on that after the show, because it seems we've not even gone anywhere, and 30 minutes is fast spent in terms of this conversation. Anyway, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Were you comfortable?
Yes,
I'm on.
I've been blessed.
All right, I've been speaking
you
with
very much.
OLUFEMI Boyede, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of KOINONIA Global Services, as well as ANNABEL, KAMUCHE, GMD, NICERT Group, one woman that is doing well in this sector too. Very, 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 very well.
Thank you so much.
I must say. All right, that's the much we can take on this edition of the program. We'll have a part 2. We will agree on that later. Be the best you can be. Be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Naji. I'll see you all again tomorrow, same time on the station.